Coming up today, 10 Koreans have been killed and 4 others seriously injured after a bus they were travelling in veered off a bridge in northeast China. President Park Geun-hye urges North Korea to come forward for talks with South Korea, but warns the regime it'll face even tougher sanctions unless it abandons its nuclear ambitions. Plus, Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras says Greece must vote no in Sunday's referendum to push for a better bailout deal. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello to our viewers around the world. It's 6 a.m. on Thursday, July 2nd here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Broome. Our top story this morning, at least 10 Korean government workers have been killed in a bus crash in northeastern China. The Foreign Ministry says the bus, carrying 26 Koreans and 2 Chinese nationals, veered off a bridge in the northeastern Chinese city of Jian and hurtled 15 meters into the river. You can see images of the devastation there. The crash happened at around 3:30 in the afternoon as the bus was heading to the border city of Dandong. The officials were travelling on a 5-day training programme organised by Korea's local government officials development institute. 4 others are said to be seriously injured but were not in a life-threatening condition. The Korean government is dispatching an emergency response team comprised of 20 officials to the accident site today. No news yet as to what caused the bus to plunge off the bridge. President Park Geun-hye has called for South Korea to reopen dialogue with North Korea while maintaining a firm security posture against the threats posed by the North. At a ceremony on Wednesday to appoint new members of the National Unification Advisory Council, the president said Seoul is ready to discuss anything. She added that it's time the leadership in Pyongyang came to the negotiating table to find a way for the 2 Koreas to coexist. While urging the North to give up its nuclear development program, President Park said South Korea is prepared to assist the regime if it abandons its nuclear ambitions. Let's take a listen to what she had to say.
북한이 핵을 포기하는 결단을 내린다면 경제와 평화, 체제 안정과 경제 발전 모두를 얻을 수 있습니다. 우리 정부는 북한의 핵 포기 과정에서 함께 추진할 수 있는 다양한 경제협력 사업을 강구하고 있습니다.
Stressing that South Korea will need to end 70 years of division in order to further its position in the world, the president asked the council to lead her government's efforts to prepare for a peaceful unification. Now, North Korea's shocking human rights violations are once again being laid bare for the world to see. The Seoul-based Korea Institute for National Unification says North Korea publicly executed 1,382 people between the year 2000 and 2014. Now, this is based on the testimony of hundreds of North Korean defectors, and the actual number of executions may, in fact, be even higher. In particular, the number of executions were carried out after people in the North were caught watching South Korean dramas or films on DVD. The findings are in stark contrast to Pyongyang's claims that executions are used in exceptional cases only. It has emerged that Japan's Deputy Foreign Minister Shinsuke Sugiyama made an unannounced visit to Korea this week to fine-tune last-minute details regarding Tokyo's push to register former industrial sites on UNESCO's World Heritage List. Now, according to government officials in Seoul, the Japanese diplomat held talks with his Korean counterpart Kim Hong-gyun, followed by a meeting with Vice Foreign Minister Jo Tae-yeol. This happened on Wednesday. The diplomats are known to have reached a consensus on some issues during the final stage consultations, although not much has been revealed officially. They are also said to have discussed other pending issues to follow up on talks between their respective foreign ministers last month. During those talks, Tokyo agreed to specify the fact that tens of thousands of Koreans were used as slave laborers at the sites during Japan's colonial rule of Korea. The internal feud within Korea's ruling party is heating up, with the party split over what to do with under-fire floor leader Yoo Seung-min. Now, officials loyal to President Park want Yoo to step down for his actions leading up to a controversial legal revision that had to be vetoed by the president. Yoo has his supporters, though, and the man himself is going about his business as normal. Park Ji-won reports.
Senior lawmakers from the ruling Central Party who are close to President Park Geun-hye have set an internal deadline for the embattled floor leader's resignation. They argue that Yoo Seung-min should resign by next Monday to take responsibility for creating a rift between the ruling party and the presidential office. That's when lawmakers are slated to vote again on a controversial revision to the National Assembly law that was vetoed by President last week.
You keep saying that he doesn't have any reason to resign, but I don't know why he doesn't step down. The current rift between the party and the presidential office is reason enough for him to resign.
But the party is deeply divided over the issue. Five-term lawmaker and Supreme Council member Lee Jae-ho said the party should not make a political scapegoat of Yoo.
We might have some time to discuss this matter after getting through all of the most pressing state affairs. But now is not the time for this. The public doesn't want a fight between the ruling party and the presidential office. I think it should stop now.
Despite the mounting pressure on him to resign, the floor leader has continued on with his regular schedule. He also refused to comment on the matter when questioned by reporters.
I have nothing to say about the matter.
The chair of the main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy, Moon Jae-in, criticized the ruling party, saying it has to obey to the will of the public, not that of the president. The party said it would continue to seek ways to strengthen the assembly's legislative power, even though the ruling party has said its lawmakers will not vote on the vetoed bill next Monday. The proposed revision to the parliamentary law that sparked the standoff between the assembly and the presidential office allows the parliament to request changes to executive ordinances that are out of step with the spirit of the related law. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Now, the prosecution has reportedly concluded that allegations a deceased businessman provided illegal funds during the 2012 presidential race and lobbied for a pardon are groundless. While the prosecution is expected to announce its findings officially on Thursday, reports say prosecutors couldn't find any evidence that slush funds from Song Wan-jong's Gyeongnam Enterprises were delivered to political camps in the run-up to the last presidential election. They also failed to prove that Song gave kickbacks to politicians and key figures within the presidential office in return for a presidential pardon in late 2007. Now, a list of current and former political heavyweights left by Song before his suicide in April prompted a special probe and forced former Prime Minister Lee Wan-gu to step down. Prosecutors are expected to indict Lee and Gyeongsang-namdo Province Governor Hong Jung-pyo for accepting bribes from Song. The tide seems to have turned in Korea's fight against the MERS virus, with no additional cases reported since Saturday now. And there's growing speculation the government might declare an official end to the outbreak later this month. Kim Hyun-bin reports.
The outbreak of Middle East respiratory syndrome seems to be under control in Korea. Korea's health ministry said Wednesday that no new cases have been reported for 4 days since Saturday, indicating that the outbreak could be subsiding. The number of people diagnosed with the virus has been the same since Saturday, at 182, and with no additional deaths reported overnight. The death toll remains at 33. Of the 182 people diagnosed with the disease since the outbreak on May 20th, 2 more have been discharged from the hospital, bringing the total number of fully recovered patients to 97, while 52 are still hospitalized. There are still roughly 2,500 people in isolation, mostly at home for suspected infections. Still, many of them are being released daily. The virus carried a high fatality rate in other countries of 40% until the outbreak in Korea. South Korea's fatality rate stands at 18.1%. There is no vaccine or cure for the disease. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
Now to some major developments on the Greek debt crisis overnight. The country's Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras has urged Greeks to say no to an international bailout deal during a referendum on Sunday. In a televised address on Wednesday evening local time, Tsipras again accused Greece's European partners of blackmailing his country, and he flatly denied rumours he was considering delaying or calling off the vote. Now, despite banks being closed and ATM withdrawals tightly restricted, the Prime Minister tried to reassure Greeks that their pensions and wages would be safe. Before his speech, Tsipras had laid out new proposals to the Eurozone, accepting most of the terms of a bailout he had earlier rejected, but with certain conditions attached. The Eurogroup quickly rebuffed those proposals, and Germany, the Eurozone's biggest economy, said further talks with Greece would have to wait until after Sunday's referendum. Back here in Korea, and round one has gone to Samsung in its closely watched legal skirmish with US hedge fund Elliott Associates. A local court has thrown out Elliott's injunction request to block a vote on the merger of two Samsung Group affiliates. Shin Se-min reports.
The Seoul Central District Court has rejected the first injunction brought by US hedge fund Elliott Associates. Elliott had been seeking to block the proposed $8 billion merger of two Samsung Group units, Samsung C&T and Seoul Industries, the de facto holding company of Samsung Group. The hedge fund, which owns a 7.1% stake in Samsung C&T, sought to block a shareholder vote scheduled on July 17th over the proposed all-stock takeover attempt by Seoul. Elliott argued that the proposed merger is unfair, saying stockholders in Samsung C&T were getting offered well under the odds for their shares. Elliott, Samsung C&T's third largest shareholder, also took issue with Samsung C&T's stake sale to KCC, a local manufacturer heavily in favor of the takeover, and was hoping to nullify KCC's voting rights. The Seoul court did not issue a decision on that injunction request on Wednesday, but said it would do so before the shareholder vote on July 17th. Following the ruling, Elliott expressed its regret, sticking to its guns that the sale of Samsung C&T shares to KCC was inappropriate and unlawful. Samsung C&T says it was delighted with this court's ruling, describing it as fair as a merger itself. The proposed merger, considered vital for the controlling Lee family to transfer leadership from the group's hospitalized figurehead Lee Geun-hye to eldest son Jae-yong, will go through if 2/3 of Samsung C&T shareholders vote in favor of it. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
Now, wearable technology might not have taken off as much as Samsung might have wanted it to, but the Korean firm is still backing the market to become the next big growth market. A new report from Lux Research has found that over the past 5 years, Samsung Electronics has filed more patents for wearable technology than any other company. Between 2010 and May 2015, the Korean firm accounted for 4% of the more than 41,000 patents filed. Apple accounted for just 2.2%. Now, the vast majority, more than 3/4, were filed by independent creators. Samsung Electronics is working on a new smartwatch. It's called Orbis, and officials say it should be released alongside the Galaxy Note 5 in the autumn. Earlier this week, Korea selected Airbus to provide it with a new fleet of airborne tankers. For more on how the European aerospace giant's flying gas stations will boost the Korean Air Force's combat capabilities, our Connie Kim reports.
It's the world's largest aerial refueling tanker. The Airbus's A330 MRTT is about 59 meters long and roughly 60 meters wide, and it can carry up to 111 tons of fuel, giving F-15K fighter jets that are deployed to South Korea more time in the air. Currently, the jets have only 30 minutes to travel the 320 kilometers from Daegu Air Base in the south to the easternmost island of Dokdo on a full tank, and 20 minutes to fly over the southernmost island of Yeodo. This short amount of time wasn't enough to allow the Air Force to respond effectively if conflict were to break out in these areas. Japan has long tried to claim Dokdo, while the Yeodo Reef is in the air zones of Korea, Japan, and China. But now with the new tankers, the flight duration will be extended to more than 90 minutes over Dokdo and about 80 minutes over Yeodo. In addition, the Air Force will be able to push its range of operations to beyond Pyongyang and Wonsan in North Korea. The Air Force's combat capabilities will also get a boost as the jets will be able to carry more weapons while using less fuel. 3 companies had competed to win the $1.3 billion bid, with Airbus and Boeing in a tight race at the top. Although Boeing's KC-46A is highly compatible with the U.S.-made fighter jets in South Korea's fleet, the European aerospace giant ultimately won the bid. In announcing its choice on Tuesday, Seoul said the deciding factor was Airbus's higher refueling capacity. The 4 tankers are slated to arrive in South Korea between 2018 and 2019. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Well, that's all we have for now. I'm Mark Broome. Have a great day and thank you for watching. We do hope to see you at the same time on Friday. Until then, goodbye.